Well, this week, inshallah, should be pretty easy. In the first section of the book, An-Nahw al-Wadih is broken up into 3 books, or 3 sections. And this section is the last, or this is the last of the first section. A knot, which technically is the same as a sifa, which is a description or an attribute, right? So what we're saying here, we're talking about adjectives, basically. Adjectives. So, Abdullah, and as well as me, I used to have it previously too. Issues with the Arabic terminology. When you start having ismu inna wa ismu kana wa khabru inna wa khabru kana wa mansubat wa majzumat and all these words that you're not used to, it becomes difficult. I say them for 2 reasons. Number 1, we should get used to them. No. Because eventually we want to learn Arabic in Arabic. We don't want to learn Arabic in English forever, although it's possible to do so to some extent. But we don't want to learn Arabic in English forever. We want to learn it in Arabic, and so therefore I do it to get us used to the words. Right now, منصوبات الجملات اسم إن اسم كان خبر إن خبر كان مبتدا وخبر ومرفوع. All that stuff might be a little difficult, but with repetition, inshallah, along with tarkeez, along with concentration, you'll get it. If we keep repeating it and you try, you'll get it. If you just keep blocking it out, then you won't. I know, because I blocked it out for a long time. It took me a long time to say, you know what, I'm finally ready to try. Right? Second reason I mention them is some people may be more advanced than others and they're used to it, and so it's just, you know, confirmation of what's with them. But the main thing is to get the ideas. What comes after inna, the first noun is mansub. The second one is marfu', you know. What comes after kana, the first noun is marfu', the second noun is mansub, right? That's the main point. And that's in a simple sentence. So here we're talking about a not and a sifa. The same thing, different way of saying attribute or adjective. We know the word sifa from Asma'ullahi wa Sifatihi, the names of Allah and His attributes. And you have some people who will say Asma'ullahi wa Nu'utihi, which would be the plural of not, Nu'ut. Right? Some people have said it. Some people say it's better to not say that, and they criticized it. But Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari, he said Nu'ut. He has a book on the Asma of Allah in Nu'ut. Right? So it's not a problem. They're just both attributes or descriptions of a noun. Right? The thing that is described, and this might be a little more technical, so we'll just get it out of the way real quick. This is the attribute, the not, or the sifa, right? The object being described, right? What's the word for object that we know?
Nasb.
Maf'ul. Maf'ul. Maf'ulun bihi, right? Maf'ul. So if we take this not and we put it in there, we'll just put the same on the same pattern. Men'ut. Men'ut or mawsuf. Men'ut or mawsuf. Maf'ul, men'ut, mawsuf, same scale. We got your meme, then you got your first letter, fa, noon, waw, then you got your second letter, ayn, sad, then you got your wows, and then you got your last letter, the lam, the ta, the fa, right? Maf'ul is the same as men'ut, is the same as mawsuf. This is the scale, maf'ul, object. So you have your not, that's your adjective. Your men'ut is your word that it is describing. Men'ut, or if you have your sifa, then your mawsuf is the word you're describing. So if we read, inshallah, just the first example is down like this. 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3 over here, right? So we don't want to read 1, 1. We want to read 1, 2, 3. So the first one says, هذا كتاب مفيد. This is a beneficial book. Mufid is beneficial. Mufid means beneficial. Like fawaid or faida, a benefit and benefits, right? Mufid. This is a beneficial book. Not this book is beneficial, right? Because that's not necessarily an adjective. That's information about the book. If I said, هذا الكتاب, and I told you that if you can master these alif lams and where they go, Sheikh Ahmed said you got 50% of the language. Right? Okay, if I said هذا الكتاب مفيد, this book is beneficial, this is now information about this book and is not necessarily an adjective. Right? It's not necessarily an adjective. So here we have هذا, this is a beneficial book. We have a because there is no alif lam. This is a beneficial book. So we see here the adjective agrees with the noun. The adjective agrees with the noun. They're both marfu'. Neither one have alif lam. Right? This one's male. This one's male. This one's singular. This one's singular. Read the next one for us, Abdullah.
قرأت كتابا مفيدا.
قرأت كتابا مفيدا. نعم. قرأت, I read what? Now it becomes the maf'ulun bihi. It becomes mansub because it's the object of the reading. It's the object of the reading, so it's mansub. قرأت كتابا مفيدا. So we see when we put our tanween, our fatatain here on kitab, because of it being the object, now we must do the same thing to the adjective. Must do the same exact thing to the adjective. Number 3, Muharram.
نظرت في كتاب مفيد.
نظرت, I looked in kitabin mufidin. Kitab is majroor here because of fi, because of the harf jar. So therefore, mufid, the attribute, it follows it in its majroorness, or whatever, in its jar, right? Now this chapter, and we'll get to it inshallah, but we'll read the definition at the end. Read the first one over here, Ya Muharram. Ya Abu Tahir. The first one in the second column.
هذا ميدان فصيح.
نعم. هذا ميدان فصيح. Maidan is a field. Maidan is a field. Fasih, we're used to saying fasih like someone being eloquent in the language, but that just means that they have a vast knowledge of the language, right? They have a big use of the language. So here, هذا ميدان فصيح means this is a spacious field. Fasih here with the meaning of wasi', meaning of wide and open, right? Because when a person is fasih, that means they have a big vocabulary and they know how to use it. It's big, it's there, they're able to do it like that. So هذا ميدان فصيح. We see the fasih, the sifa or the nat follows the maidan, which would be called the mawsuf or the man'ut, and it's rough, and it being marfu'. The second one says ra'aytu maidanan fasihan. It's the same as the one across from it here, right? Ra'aytu, I saw maidanan fasihan. What's the object of my seeing? The maf'ulun bihi, maidan. So it's mansub. So fasih is mansub. Abdullah, you want to read the next one?
جريت في ميدان فصيح.
Now, jarraytu from jarra yajurru, to run. To run.
Right.
I ran. Jarraytu, I ran. Fi maidanin fasihan. I ran in a spacious field. After fi, maidan became majroor. So fasih followed it. Right? Read the next one. Go ahead, Fadl.
Okay, so whatever follows the maf'ulun bih is called a man'ut, right?
No.
Whatever follows it.
No, because here is not a maf'ulun bihi. And here is not a maf'ulun bihi. It's only maf'ulun bihi here.
Okay.
Right? Here,
Okay.
Maidan is a badal for hada. Hada is your mubtada. Just to get, hada is your mubtada. That's your subject. Maidan is a badal for it, basically. Or no, I'm sorry. This is the mubtada, and maidan is the khabar. You say, this is a field, right? This is a field. So fasih, then this is now a sifa or a nat for the khabar. Right? In this first example, هذا ميدان فصيح. هذا is the mubtada. It's the subject, basically. This is the khabar. Say al-khabar. Right? And this is the nat. I'm trying to figure out how to write it. This is the nat. Now this would be called man'ut because it's being described. I was just showing, when I said that over here, maf'ul, I was just showing you, no matter what adjective is describing an object, you understand? Object of the verb is maf'ulun bihi. It's called al-maf'ulun bihi or maf'ulun bihi, right? Here, when I say maf'ul, then it's on the subject of maf'ul because it's the object no matter where it's at. If it's the khabar, it's the object. If it's the maf'ulun bihi, it's the object. If it's the majroor after the jar, then it's still called the object. Not the object of the verb, but the object. So it's called man'ut in all of these positions, because it's what's being described. The not is the sifa, and it's describing the man'ut. Now that man'ut might be a khabar, it might be a maf'ulun bihi, right? It might be a jar wal majroor, right? You follow me, Muharram?
Okay.
So the man'ut could be anything here. It could be a khabar, it could be maf'ulun bihi, it could be the mubtada. And we'll get there, inshallah. So it could even be the mubtada. You could have a sifa describing the mubtada. And we'll get there, because I'm going to give some more examples, inshallah. But the noun being described is always called the man'ut, always.
You got a question?
Okay. And it's also maf'ulun.
Here it's maf'ulun bi. Here it's maf'ulun bi. But in this one, on the second one. In the first one, it's the khabar. But it's still called the man'ut, meaning the object being described.
And then the
right?
is not. Okay.
The first one, and this one is the not.
Okay.
Right? This is your not. This is your man'ut.
Okay.
Right? This is your not, this is your man'ut. Now, it could be in a different position as it is in different positions in all of these three sentences. The first one is the khabar. The second one, it's a maf'ulun bihi. And the third one, it is a jar majroor, raise a majroor, right? Right? Ismu majroor, we'll say, better, maybe. So, the man'ut here is ismu majroor. The man'ut here is the maf'ulun bihi. The ism here is the khabar. But the reason I showed you this up here, maybe it just confused you even more, is to find out how we get back from this word not, meaning attribute or adjective. What is it called? It's describing something. But that object that is describing is easy to figure out what we're going to call it, because it's an object. You understand? It's an object describing. So it's called the man'ut, right? Anyway, sorry for maybe confusing you. It's already too much, and then I added.
Now is actually much clearer.
Cool. If we read the first one and the second one, Muharram.
Okay. تفتحت الوردة الجميلة.
Alaikum.
1 second. Wa alaikum salam. I see it. Why is fasihu mansub? Where? Here? That's the question of Maryam. If you're asking why is fasihan mansub, I don't know, because you got a dumb on the end, so I'm not understanding it. Okay, if you're talking about here, fasihan is mansub because it is the adjective describing maidanan. So maidanan is mansub, so the adjective is to follow it. And we're going to go over it a little bit better, but the adjective follows. Here, the noun is marfu', so the adjective is marfu'. Here, the adjective, or the noun is mansub, so the adjective is mansub. Here, the noun is majroor, so the adjective is majroor. Same thing on the three ones next to it with fasih. Inshallah, as we finish these three examples, bi'idhnillah. So he said, tafattahat al-jamila. Tafattaha is to open. Is to open up, right? Al-Warda is a rose. Al-Wardatu al-Jamila, the beautiful rose. Right? The beautiful rose. تفتحت الوردة الجميلة. The beautiful rose opened. Right? Here, in his first example, hopefully it's not making everything too heavy. تفتحت الوردة. الوردة is your fa'il. Because it's what opened. Right? It's what opened. What opened? The warda. The rose opened. Right? This is your object being described, and this is your not. Right? Tafattaha is a fi'l madi, past tense verb. The beautiful rose opened. Right? Al-warda here is not a khabar, it's not a maf'ulun bihi, it's not a ism majroor, it is a fa'il. It's what did the opening, right? Second one, Abu Tahir.
قطفت الوردة الجميلة.
قطفت الوردة الجميلة. No problem, you said it right. قطفت, I picked. الوردة الجميلة. So الوردة here is a مفعول به. Right? الوردة is the object of my picking. But when it took a fatha, so did al-jamila, even though it's not written. Maybe this is just a bad print, right? Fatahtu or qataftu al-wardata al-jamila. I picked the beautiful rose. And then Abdullah, read the last one for us.
نظرت إلى الوردة الجميلة.
نظرت إلى الوردة الجميلة. Right? I just said the endings just to make it clear. نظرت, I looked at the beautiful rose. I looked at the beautiful rose. Here, it's ismu majroor. After the jar, it's ismu majroor, right? Ismu majroor. Just like the ones above. Ismu majroor. So, what we see here, that the not follows the men'ut, right? The not follows the men'ut, which, I'm just going to say it one time and I'm not going to repeat it, inshallah, is also called the sifa and mawsuf in some books. So you know that it has another name, but it means the same exact thing. But it can be called the not and men'ut, or it can be called the sifa and mawsuf. Same thing. Okay, this not is going to follow the men'ut. We see it follows it in four things here. Well, they didn't show us the fourth one, but we'll give example, inshallah. The first one we see, it follows it in case. We'll call that the case. Is it mansub? Is it majroor? Is it marfu? It follows it. If the object, the men'ut, is marfu, the not is marfu. If the men'ut is mansub, then the not is mansub. If the men'ut is majroor, then the not is majroor. That's the case. We can go and we can see in the third set of examples that if it's definite, then if the men'ut is definite, then the not is going to be definite. So when we put an alif lam on al-warda, then we put an alif lam on jamila. So we're going to say definite, indefinite. Right? It agrees in if it's definite or indefinite. So I could have said, هذا al-kitabu al-mufidu, right? Or we could make up something like that, right? If I add an alif lam here, I add an alif lam here. If I don't add an alif lam to mufid, as the example I wrote earlier, then this is not called the not anymore. This is going to be the khabar, and this is going to be a badal for hal. It's going to change up our sentence. So we know it's not a not and man'ut because it's not following it. Indefinite indefiniteness. We also see from this third example, when it becomes feminine, then the adjective becomes feminine. When the man'ut becomes feminine, the not becomes feminine, because we have the word jameel. I could have said, هذا كتاب جميل, instead of mufidun. Right? So jameel, it becomes in gender. It's going to follow it in gender as well. And the fourth thing that they didn't bring here is that it's going to follow it in number. So when we said kalimatan, we said habibatan. So when it became two, when the kalimatan, which is the object here, the man'ut, habibatan is the not. It's the adjective describing the kalimatan. There are two words, habibatan ila rahman, khafifatan ala lisan, thaqilatan fil mizan. So they became, number one, marfu with the alif that we talked about, and they became two with, they became two kalimatan. Kalimatan. We didn't say kalimatain, habibatan. We said kalimatan, habibatan. So it matched in the case. And it matched in the dual. So if we were to change this first example up here, هذا كتاب مفيد, we would say هذه, because we're talking about books, and books are whenever an inanimate object, and this, I don't think this is the first time for anybody, hopefully it's not, whenever there's an inanimate object, and it's in the plural of three or more, and it's inanimate, inanimate object, meaning not a human, an angel, or a capital angel, or a jinn. It's called غير عاقل in Arabic. Now, to us in English, dogs, cats, horses, they're not inanimate objects. In Arabic, they are. They don't have an intellect. They don't have the ability to choose between right and wrong. They don't have the ability to follow the message and all that stuff. So they're considered inanimate in Arabic. غير العاقل in Arabic. Whenever you have an object that is غير العاقل, meaning not a human, an angel, or a jinn, and it's three or more, we're going to talk about it like feminine singular. Meaning, we say, for instance, هذا كتاب. We say هذان كتابان. These are two books. This is a book. When we get to kutub, we're going to say هذه. هذه. So if we were to say, for instance, هذا كتاب خفيف. It's light. We're going to say هذا كتابا خفيفا. Right? And if we want to say kutub, we're going to say khafifa. Khafifa, because that's the singular feminine way of addressing. So if you have an inanimate object, 3 or more, you're going to talk about it like it's feminine, singular. You're going to say hiya if you point to them. Hiya, you're going to say hiya or tilka, right? You're going to talk about them like they're feminine, singular, inanimate objects. So, if I was to say هذا or هذه كتب مفيدة, because it's like this. If I was to talk about and use this as Muslims as an example, though, for animate objects, so we'll say that. I'll put my example up here. I'll say هذا كتاب مفيد. Right? هذا كتاب مفيد. Let's say هذان كتابان مفيدان. Right? If I say هذه سلام هذه كتب مفيدة, because it is a non-intellectual plural. So we're talking about like feminine singular. Now, if I use a different example and I say, for instance, let me see. هذا, I'm trying to think of a good adjective here. هذا ولد طيب. It's a good boy. Right? This is a good, nice young man. هذان ولدان طيبان. Now I say هؤلاء because this is the plural, right? هؤلاء أولاد, the plural of ولد, أولاد طيبون. My طيب had to become plural because أولاد is plural. If I said Muslim in place, I say Musliman, Muslimuna, طيبون. So it's going to match. If it's an intellectual thing, an aqil thing, it's going to match in everything. If it's غير aqil, when it comes to the plural, we're going to talk about it feminine singular. You understand? So this is your exception here. This is your exception. Are you guys following?
Yes, I have a question.
No.
Uh-oh.
So for animate objects, if you're using for plural, for both هذه and هذا, it'll be هؤلاء.
Yes. If we did an example of هذه بنت bintun طيبة. Right? هذه بنت طيبة. This is a good girl. هاتان بنتان طيبتان. Right? You say هؤلاء بنات طيبات. طيب. I don't need that next. I don't need that one. طيبات. هؤلاء بنات طيبات. Right?
Yes.
My طيب becomes plural for feminine because it's feminine. My girls become feminine. هؤلاء is the same.
You missing a shadda. Tayyibat.
Huh?
You missing a shadda on Tayyibat.
We're missing them all over the place, but since you know where it's at, I don't have to keep writing them because it's already difficult to write. We're missing them over here, right? What we're focusing on is the endings and the plural and singularity, not the shaddas and all that, brother. Anyway. Now, the same thing would happen if I was to say, Ra'aytu waladan tayyiban wa ra'aytu walidain tayyibain wa ra'aytu awlad tayyibin. You understand? Because when this becomes majroor or mansoob, then everything is going to follow it. رأيت تفضل.
Did you say رأيت أولاد?
Awlad is, give me 1 second, think in my head real quick. Because there's some words which are memnun min as-sarf, but this is not one of them. So no, this, yes, you would say رأيت أولاد, right? Or أولادا. أولادا. Right? طيبين. If I say رأيت أولادا طيبين.
طيبين.
طيبين, because طيب, when it becomes a plural, when it's طيبون, this is marfu'. The plural طيبون, if I was to say muslimun, right? If I was to say رأيت muslimin, right? And نظرت إلى المسلمين. These plurals are majroor ya, and they're mansoob with a ya. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so therefore your adjective is going to be the same way. So if I was to say, give me another page, Ra'aytu, and I'll use Muslim. Ra'aytu Musliman, right? طيبان. طيبان. رأيت مسلماني or مسلمين, because that's the majroor. مسلمين, right? طيبين. And then if I said طيب, let me get this for Abdullah. طيبين, right? Then if I said رأيت المسلمين, right? Because that's the plural. Muslimina. Tayyibina. That's Abdullah. You understand? So it's going to match in case, as we see here. Ma, fata, kasra. It's going to match in definiteness and indefinite, as we see here and here. It's going to match in gender, as we see kitab and warda. And it's going to match in number. They didn't give us this. In fact, when they gave us the definition at the end of their explanation, they said the not is a word which points to a description of the noun before it. And that's something I guess that's important to mention, although I think we all know it, is that the sifa comes after, or the not comes after the men'ut inside of Arabic. Whereas in English we say red car. In Arabic we say car red, right? So it points to a description of the noun after it, and yusammi al-ism mawsuf men'utan. And the word which is described is called the men'ut. Right? And the not follows the men'ut in raf, nasb, and jar, which is the case. The only thing they brought in the definition is that it follows in the case. They didn't say anything about definite or indefinite. They didn't say anything about male or female. They didn't say anything about number. They left that out of their definition there. That's really strange that they did that. I don't know why. That's really strange. I mean, they gave examples for definite, indefinite, and for male and female, but they didn't give a definition for number. And maybe, you know, it's really weird why they didn't do so to me. Right? The qaida is missing 3 points, and they discussed 2 of those 3 in the text. So it's just a little strange to me. So an adjective is going to follow the noun. The not is going to follow the men'ut in its case. If it's raf, a jar, or majroor. Right? And there is no sukoon. There is no sukoon. There is no sukoon. Why? Because nouns don't take sukoon. Right? That's for verbs. Verbs are in the sukoon. So it's going to follow it in its case. It's raf, it's nasb, and it's jar. It's going to follow it if it's definite or indefinite. It's going to follow it in its gender, if it's male or female. And it's going to follow it in its number. Right? The only 2 exceptions would be the gender and the number, and that would be in the case of the ghayr aqil. Right? Kutub is not feminine, kitab is masculine, but yet, because it's plural, 3 or more, we talk about it like a feminine singular. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. That's understandable?
No.
Abdullah.
No. But
Okay, now. Huh?
You're saying it don't care, a noun don't carry a sukoon.
A noun does not carry sukoon, yes.
Okay, so go back to the other page. One before that one. Alright. Maidan, what is that?
Where's the sukoon at? There's fatatain.
Oh, okay.
A
Well,
sukoon is
like
this,
over
man.
here.
This is,
That's
huh?
what I'm saying. That's what I thought you were talking about.
The end of a word, man. We're talking about the end of a word.
Okay. All right.
Nahw deals with the ends of words. It doesn't deal with the middles or beginnings. Nahw deals with the ends.
All right. I'm just clarifying. That's all I want to see.
Okay, when we're talking about carrying, we mean at the end, not in the middle. Now, let me see here. I'm trying to see how I can make this a how I can make this. This isn't necessarily an actual example but it will prove the point. Okay, I'm trying to think of an actual example, but it's escaping me right now. Right. So if I said introducing someone to you, هذه عائشة الطويلة. Now, Aisha doesn't have an alif lam on it, but we know who she is, right? So it's definite, even though we don't know, even though we don't have an alif lam, the name itself is definite. So an example of that would be when they write Makkah al-Mukarrama, right? That might even be better. Let's get rid of Aisha for a second. Radiallahu ta'ala anha. Okay. هذه مكة المكرمة. Number one, Mecca is mamnu min as-sarf. It does not take tanween nor a kasra. That's what mamnu min as-sarf means. For us, it does not take a kasra nor tanween. But Mecca is a city that is known. So even though it doesn't have alif lam on it, it's ma'ruf, it's known, it's a definite city. So the adjective is going to have alif lam on it because Mecca is something which is definite. It's a known city. So the adjective has to be known, it has to be definite as well. So it's going to have the alif lam. So that's an exception, but it's a tricky look. As well as if I say Zortu Makkata, right? Put my shadda on there for Abdullah, right? Abdullah wants the shaddas. I always want more, right? Zortu Makkata al-Mukarrama. So here, it just became mansoob. Everything, nothing really changed. The still only tricky thing is the alif lam. But that's because Mecca is ma'ruf. It's known, it's definite. Now if I said Jarraytu fi Makkah al-Mukarrama. This stuff takes a little bit of focus. Here, the first example, easy. هذه مكة المكرمة. Okay, we had an alif lam because Mecca is definite, right? And if we said, for instance, al-Kuwait, because Kuwait has an alif lam on it, whereas Mecca doesn't, then it would be easy. Al-Kuwait, al-Mukarrama, right? We don't say that, but as an example, it would be easy. It would be easy to see the alif lam and the alif lam here, because Kuwait has alif lam on it. We say Kuwait, but it's actually al-Kuwait. Mecca is Mecca. It does not take alif lam. That's its name. So the alif lam is there. That's in the first example. The second example is easy following that because Zurtu Makkata, I visited where? I visited Mecca, becomes the maf'ulun bihi, takes its mansub, the verb following it is mansub, or the adjective following it is mansub. Awesome. Then I say in the third example here, Jarraytu fi Makkah al-Mukarramati, because Mecca is mamnu min as-sarf, it does not take a kasrah. But its adjective will, because this Mecca is majroor with a fatha, because it's mamnu min as-sarf. It's majroor, but it's majroor with a fatha. Whereas mukarrama is not mamnu min as-sarf, so therefore it can take the kasra. That's a lot. I know it's a lot. I may have just threw everything off, and I do that every week with you guys. But if we focus and we use the examples, because we're going to have examples in these books. Right now we had a lot of short hadith. We're almost done. We got 10 left. But then we're going to have Nawaqib al-Islam, and this is short text. But then when you get into Quran al-Arba' Thalathatul Usul, there are going to be a lot more regular sentences in those books. Get a chance to see these things. So we're going to get plenty of examples where something's going to be mamnu min as-sarf. Right? And the adjective is still going to take the kasra and so on and so forth. So these are examples. I think if you focus, if you go back and rewatch this video, I think you know, sometimes you have to do it 2, 3 times, 4 times, man. You know, Sheikh Abdul Razak, he says if you know, some people memorize something after 10 times. You know, they memorize an ayah after repeating it 10 times. Some people need 20 times. Some people need 50 times. Some people need 200, 300 times. And if you want to memorize it, you'll look at it. I'm not saying watch the video 200, 300 times. I'm saying, you know, watch it a couple times, take some notes, write it out, send some examples through a text message or an email or something. We'll get it, inshallah ta'ala. Just remember, this is the case in mamnu min as-sarf. It's majroor with a fatha. So the adjective is not mamnu min as-sarf, so it can still take the kasra. Right? Mecca is definite. So even though it's definite, it doesn't have the alif lam, it's definite in and of itself. So therefore its adjective is going to have to become definite, because mukarrama is not definite in and of itself. So you have to make it definite, right? With the alif lam. And the same goes on, inshallah. If there's any questions, we got about 2-3 minutes left before I have to take my son to school. Is alama, I don't understand alama, from them. Meaning a name. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to release your pen and give you a whiteboard. Write it. Use your mouse or something. I don't know. Oh, that's Ibrahim. I released the wrong pen. I'm sorry. Ibrahim, go ahead and write. If you got a mouse or a touchpad, you could write it on there. I don't know the word alama. Like that, al-alama, like they say, al-alama to Fawzan, and like this. Is it because Mecca is now that? Why is not in need of alif lam? Because Mecca is its name. Mecca is known.